Namaste, aloha. My name is Janapati Das. Thank you again for joining in on another story of Krishna Katha from the Krishna book. If you haven't already, feel free to like or subscribe on my channel here. I have a lot of YouTube videos on the Krishna stories, as well as some music videos that you can enjoy. Feel free to share and comment in the videos. I'd like to offer my respects to all of you and offer respectful obeisances unto my Guru Dev, Jagaguru, Siddha Swarupananda, Paramahamsa Srila Prabhupada, and of course His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we will start by the hearing and chanting of Krishna's most holy names, so feel free to join along. Shriman Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this 10th canto, excuse me, of the Srimad Bhagavatam is known as the Spotless Purana. A Purana is a history. In this case, this is a history of Lord Sri Krishna and his incarnations and pastimes. It is a spotless Purana, and one who hears and contemplates on it from a pure devotee of Krishna can attain all good fortune and come to understand the purpose of their life as the loving servants of Krishna and come to know their relationship with Krishna. So we've been reading these stories. You know, the last story we had gotten into was after the Jarasandha had thought that they had killed Krishna and Balaram by burning the mountain up, and then of course Krishna and Balaram jumped down, and of course we were starting into the story about the kidnapping of Rukmini by Krishna, and Krishna, of course, Rukmini, who is non-different than Radharani, the goddess of fortune, which is an expansion of Radharani. She had wanted to marry. She had learned about Krishna by hearing from great sages, including Narada Muni and others, and decided that she wanted Krishna as her husband. And but of course her brother, who was envious, an enemy of Krishna, Rukmini, a very similar name, not Rukmini, but Rukmini, had arranged a marriage to be married to the prince Shishapala. And Shishapala, of course, was also another enemy of Krishna in the Yadu dynasty. Rukmini decided that she did not want to be married to Shishapala, so she had sent this note to Krishna, and of course the Brahmana that she entrusted it with took it immediately to Dwarka and gave it to Krishna, read it to Krishna, and so that's where we're at. So in this chapter is entitled Krishna Kidnaps Rukmini. After hearing Rukmini's statement, Lord Krishna was very pleased. He immediately shook hands with the Brahmana and said, "My dear Brahmana, I am very glad to hear that Rukmini is anxious to marry me, since I am also anxious to get her hand. My mind is always absorbed in the thought of the daughter of Bhishmaka, and sometimes I cannot sleep at night because I am thinking of her. I can understand that the marriage of Rukmini with Shishapala has been arranged by her elder brother in a spirit of animosity toward me. So I am determined to give good lesson to all these princes. Just as fire is extracted and utilized after manipulating ordinary wood, similarly, after dealing with these demoniac princes, I shall bring forth Rukmini like fire from their midst." So Krishna is achieving his, of course, protecting his devotees like Rukmini, but also dealing with the demoniac burden, which is one of the reasons why Krishna came, to alleviate the world of the demoniac kings and princes and Kshatriya race. Krishna, upon being informed of the specific date of Rukmini's marriage, became anxious to leave immediately. He asked his driver Daruka to harness the horses for his chariot and prepared to go to the kingdom of Vidarbha. The driver, just after hearing this order, brought Krishna's 4 special horses. The names and description of these horses are mentioned in the Padma Purana. There we have again another Purana, which is a history. So oftentimes people think, just because a Purana is a scripture, that it's somehow mythology. But actually the Puranas, all the stories of the Vedas, the Vedic traditions and whatnot, are Puranas. They're actual histories. They're real, actual events that have taken place. They're not mythology like other stories around the world. The Puranas, they're histories. The first one, Shaiva, was greenish. The second one, Sugriva, was grayish like ice. The third, Meghapushpa, was the color of a new cloud. And at last, Balaka, Balhaka was of ashen color. When the horses were yoked and the chariot ready to go, Krishna helped the Brahmana up and gave him a seat by his side. Immediately they started from Dwarka and within one night arrived at the province of Vidarbha. So Krishna's horses can actually ride at the speed of the mind, so fast. The kingdom of Dwarka is situated in the western part of India, and Vidarbha is situated in the northern part. They are separated of a distance of not less than 1,000 miles, but the horses were so fast that they reached their destination, a town called Kundina, within one night, or at most 12 hours. Which is pretty amazing, actually, if you think about that, because if we say the northern part in this, so what was the northern part? Western part of India and northern part, and that's a pretty good distance, like even by a car driving, so obviously these horses were going over 100 miles an hour. They were so fast, because 1,000 miles is pretty, that's like I think 1/3 of the United States. King Bhishmaka was not very enthusiastic about handing his daughter over to Shishupala. So even King Bhishmaka, the father of the bride, was not enthusiastic. But like most kings, he gave most of his power to his eldest son, because you invest a lot into your eldest son, and you have a lot of affection because they're going to be the son that takes over the kingdom. So similarly, we had King Dhritarashtra, whose eldest son, Duryodhana, he had strong affection for, and couldn't keep under control because he was just too affectionate, and he wanted that desire for your offspring to succeed is almost like an extension to your own false ego. So similarly, King Bhishmaka was very similar. Even though he really wanted just Krishna to marry his daughter, he went along with his son. But he was obliged to accept the marriage settlement due to his affectionate attachment for his eldest son, who had negotiated it. As a matter of duty, he was decorating the city for the marriage ceremony and was acting in great earnest to make it very successful. Water was sprinkled all over the streets, and the city was cleansed very nicely. Since India is situated in the tropical zone, the atmosphere is always dry. Due to this, dust always accumulates on the streets and roads, so they must be sprinkled with water at least once a day. And the big cities like Calcutta, twice a day. So I've actually seen this in places that are very, very dusty desert-like places, or very dusty places in other countries where they have to actually water the streets so that dust isn't flying all over the place. Keeps it down. The roads of Kundina were arranged with colored flags and festoons, and gates were constructed at a particular crossings. The whole city was decorated very nicely. The beauty of the city was enhanced by the inhabitants, both men and women, who were dressed in washed cloth, decorated with sandalwood pulp, pearl necklaces, and flower garlands. Incense was burning everywhere, and the fragrances like a guru scented the air. Priests and brahmanas were sumptuously fed, and according to ritualistic ceremony, were given sufficient wealth and cows and charity. In this way, they were engaged in chanting Vedic hymns. The king's daughter, Rukmini, was exquisitely beautiful. She was very clean and had beautiful teeth. The auspicious sacred girdle was tied on her wrist. She was given various types of jewelry to put on and long silken cloth to cover the upper and lower parts of her body. Learned priests gave her protection by chanting mantras from the Sama Veda, Rig Veda, and Yajur Veda. After this, they chanted mantras from the Atharva Veda and offered oblations in the fire to pacify the ominous conjunctions of different stars. So, once again, astrologers looking, this kind of like Vedic astrology was a superior science. It's not like this kind of back of the newspaper astrology that you find at the very bottom, with all, you read your astrology horoscope for the day or whatever. These were very, very scientifically proven and very in-depth ways that the Brahmanas and the priestly caste would look at the stars and the patterns of the stars, and they saw some kind of ominous, situation. They would chant certain kinds of mantras or do certain fire sacrifices or obligations, sacrifices and rituals to have a beneficial situation. In other words, King Bhishmaka was very experienced in dealing with the Brahmanas and priests when such ceremonies were held. He specifically distinguished the Brahmanas by giving them large quantities of gold and silver, grains mixed with molasses, and cows decorated with golden ornaments. Dhammagosa, Shishapala's father, executed all kinds of ritualistic performances to invoke good fortune for his own family. So it's, there was these people were very pious and religious, even if they were an enemy. They still followed the Vedic rituals. This is very unlike today, where nobody really follows anything. People don't have any kind of sacrifices to the demigods. They just, so that, naturally there's so many problems because there's no system to basically imbue at least some kind of religious philosophy and way of living in their life. Dhamma means curbing down, and Gosa means famous. So he was famous for controlling the citizens. Dhammagosa thought that if Krishna came to disturb the marriage ceremony, he would certainly cut him down with his military power. So he's following these rituals, but he's, puffed up like his son. Therefore, and you have all these people who were at this time, they would see Krishna, but they didn't even understand that he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They were envious. These were the princes that Krishna had to come to alleviate the world of. Therefore, after performing the various auspicious ceremonies, Dhammagosa gathered his military divisions known as Madashravi. He took many elephants garlanded with golden necklaces and many chariots and horses, which were similarly decorated. It appeared that Dhammagosa, along with his sons and other companions, were going to Kundina, not completely forgetting the marriage, but mainly intent on fighting, as great warriors do. When King Bhishmaka learned that Dhammagosa and his parties were arriving, he left the city to receive them. Outside the city gates, there were many gardens where the guests were welcome to stay. In the Vedic system of marriage, the bride's father receives the large party of bridegroom and accommodates them in a suitable place for 2 or 3 days until the marriage ceremony is performed. The party led by Dhammagosa contained thousands of men, among whom the prominent kings and personalities were Jartsanda, Dantravaka, Vidurata, and Pandraka. So all these demoniac kings, which are a little bit of foreshadowing, they're going to appear in some stories later on here against Krishna. It was an open secret that Rukmini was meant to be married to Krishna, but that her elder brother Rukmini had arranged her marriage to Shishapala. There was also some whispering going on about a rumor that Rukmini had sent a messenger to Krishna. Therefore, the soldiers suspected that Krishna might cause a disturbance by attempting to kidnap Rukmini. So this is kind of all out in the open now. So this is sort of all setting the scene here. Even though they were not without fear, they were all prepared to give Krishna a nice fight in order to prevent the girl from being taken away. Sri Balaram received the news that Krishna had left for Kundina, accompanied only by a Brahmana. He also heard that Shishapala was there with a large number of soldiers. Suspecting that they would attack Krishna, Balaram took strong military divisions of chariots, infantry, horses, and elephants and arrived at the precinct of Kundina. So there's a big military presence on both sides there. Meanwhile, inside the palace, Rukmini was expecting Krishna to arrive, but when neither he nor the Brahmana who took her message appeared, she became full of anxiety and began to think how unfortunate she was. There is only one night between today and my marriage day, and still neither the Brahmana nor Shamasundar has returned. I cannot ascertain any reason for this. Having little hope, she thought perhaps Krishna had found reason to become dissatisfied and had rejected her fair proposal. As a result, the Brahmana might have become disappointed and not come back. Although she was thinking of various causes for the delay, she expected them both at every moment. So simultaneously, she's thinking, well, maybe it's this and maybe it's that. But at the same time, still expecting they're going to show up. Rukmini further began to think that the demigods such as Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the goddess Durga might have been displeased. It is generally said that the demigods become angry when they are not properly worshipped. For instance, when Indra found that the inhabitants of Vrindavan were not worshipping him, Krishna, having stopped the Indra Yajna, he became very angry and wanted to chastise them. Thus, Rukmini was thinking that since she did not worship Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma very much, they might have become angry and tried to frustrate her plan. Similarly, she thought that the goddess Durga, the wife of Lord Shiva, might have taken the side of her husband. Lord Shiva is known as Rudra, and his wife is known as Rudrani. Rudrani and Rudra refer to those who are very accustomed to putting others in distressed conditions so they might cry forever. Rukmini was thinking of the goddess Durga as Girija, the daughter of the Himalayan mountains. The Himalayan mountains are very cold and hard, and she thought of the goddess Durga as hard-hearted and cold. In her anxiety to see Krishna, Rukmini, who was after all still a child, thought this way about the different demigods. The gopis worshipped goddess Katyani to get Krishna as her husband. Similarly, Rukmini was thinking of the various types of demigods not for material benefit, but in respect to Krishna. Praying to the demigods to achieve the favor of Krishna is not irregular, and Rukmini was fully absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. So the worship of demigods to obtain Krishna is not looked down upon. Although it says in the Bhagavad Gita that those who are less intelligent will worship demigods for material benefit. But in this case, this was not for a material benefit. Even though she pacified herself by thinking that the time for Govinda to arrive had not yet expired, Rukmini felt that she was hoping against hope. She began to shed tears, and when they became more forceful, she closed her eyes in helplessness. While Rukmini was in such deep thought, auspicious symptoms appeared in different parts of her body. Trembling began to occur in her left eyelid and in her arms and thighs. When trembling occurs in these parts of the body, it is an auspicious sign indicating that something lucrative can be expected. Just then, Rukmini, full of anxiety, saw the Brahmana messenger. Krishna, being the supersoul of all living beings, could understand Rukmini's anxiety. Therefore, he sent the Brahmana inside the palace to let her know that he had arrived. When Rukmini saw the Brahmana, she could understand the auspicious trembling of her body and immediately became elated. She smiled and inquired from him whether or not Krishna had already come. The Brahmana replied that the son of the Yadu dynasty, Sri Krishna, had arrived. He further encouraged her by saying that Krishna had promised to carry her away without fail. Rukmini was so elated by the Brahmana's message that she wanted to give him in charity everything she possessed. However, finding nothing suitable for presentation, she simply offered him her respectful obeisances. The significance of offering respectful obeisances to a superior is that the one offering obeisances is obliged to the respected person. In other words, Rukmini implied that she would remain ever grateful to the Brahmana. Anyone who gets the favor of the goddess of fortune as this Brahmana is without a doubt always happy in material opulence. When King Bhishmaka heard that Krishna and Balaram had come, he invited them to see the marriage ceremony of his daughter. Immediately he arranged to receive them along with their soldiers in a suitable garden house. So he's probably like, oh yay, okay, cool. I kind of wanted that really to happen anyway. As was the Vedic custom, the king offered Krishna and Balaram honey and a fresh washed cloth. He was hospitable not only to Krishna, Balaram, and kings such as Jarasandha, but he also received many other kings and princes according to their respective personal strength, age, and material possessions. Out of curiosity and eagerness, the people of Kundima assembled before Krishna and Balaram. and began to drink the nectar of their beauty. With tearful eyes, they offered them their silent respects. They were very pleased, considering Lord Krishna the suitable match for Rukmini. So of course, Krishna and, devotees and Krishna, even like Yudhisthira, King Yudhisthira, who was the head Pandava, was so pious and such a wonderful devotee of Krishna that all the citizens of his kingdom were always just in joy to see him. And similarly, Krishna, they're always very pleased to see Krishna. With tearful eyes, they offered them their silent respects. They were very pleased, considering Lord Krishna the suitable match for Rukmini. They were so eager to unite Krishna and Rukmini, they began to pray to the personality of Godhead, "My dear Lord, if we have performed any pious activities that you are satisfied with, kindly be merciful upon us and accept the hand of Rukmini." It appears that Rukmini was a very popular princess, and all the citizens, out of intense love for her, prayed for her best fortune. In the meantime, Rukmini, being very nicely dressed and protected by bodyguards, came out of the palace to visit the temple of Ambika, the goddess Durga. Deity worship in the temple has been in existence since the beginning of the Vedic culture. There is a class of men described in the Bhagavad Gita as the Vedavadalata. They only believe in the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies, but not in the temple worship. Such foolish persons may here take note that although this marriage of Krishna and Rukmini took place more than 5,000 years ago, there was arrangements for temple worship. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, "Yanti deva vrata devan." The worshippers of the demigods attain the abodes of the demigods. There were many people who worshiped the demigods and many who directly worshiped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The system of demigod worship is directed mainly to Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Ganesh, the sun god, and the goddess Durga. Lord Shiva and the goddess Durga were worshipped even by the royal families. Other minor demigods were worshipped by silly, inferior people. As far as the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are concerned, they simply worship Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita, the worship of demigods is condemned, but not forbidden. There it is clearly stated that the less intelligent class of men worship the different kinds of demigods for material benefit. On the other hand, even though Rukmini was the goddess of fortune, she went to the temple of the goddess Durga because the family deity was worshipped there. So very much similar to a lot of other religions, you have a group of a lot of people who follow the Hindu religion in a sort of sense of, worshiping different demigods for material benefits, or, as Christians would do, praying to get a good wife or to get money or for your football team to win. Even when I used to go to a temple in California, Hindu temple, to chant, basically, just wasn't really done too much when I was there. There were a lot of people worshiping different demigods, and a lot of so-called Hindus, they they actually will see, okay, well, this demigod, you can pick your demigods, and they're all kind of one, but the real meaning behind the Vedic tradition is that Krishna or Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all demigods are his servants, are parts and parcels. They're not superior or on equal par at all, as we've seen in many of these stories. But they are living entities who are empowered with certain kinds of duties and government, like a government official. Some people have some more abilities to control weather, or some have more power over the oceans, or some may have the power over the sun, etc., etc. But Lord Krishna is the source of all these things, and he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. On the other hand, even though Rukmini was the goddess of fortune, she went to the temple of the goddess Durga because the family deity was worshipped there. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that Rukmini was proceeding toward the temple of the goddess Durga. Within her heart, she was always thinking of the lotus feet of Krishna. Therefore, When Rukmini went to the temple, it was not with the intention of an ordinary person who goes to beg for material benefits. Her only target was Krishna. Just like the gopis also prayed to Durga to have Krishna as their husband. It's the same thing. It's much different than those people that go and, give me a nice husband, give me a nice house, give me good health, give me, the nice boy or money or whatever it might be materially. To have the desire for Krishna, that's fine, because Krishna is our ultimate goal. Since it is he who empowers the demigod to provide material benefits. And as Rukmini proceeded toward the temple, she was very silent and grave. Her mother and her girlfriend were by her side, and the wife of the Brahmana was in the center. Surrounding her were bodyguards. This custom of a would-be bride going to the temple of a demigod is still practiced in India. As the procession continued, various musical sounds were heard. Drums, conch shells, bugles of different sizes, such as panavas, turiyas, and berries, combined to make a sound which was not only auspicious, but very sweet to hear. There were thousands of wives of respectful Brahmanas present. These women were all dressed very nicely with suitable ornaments. They presented Rukmini with flower garlands, sandalwood pulp, and a variety of colored garments to assist her in worshiping Lord Shiva and the goddess Durga. Some of these ladies were very old and knew perfectly well how to chant prayers to the goddess Durga and Lord Shiva, so followed by Rukmini and others, they led these prayers before the deity. Rukmini offered her prayers to the deity by saying, "My dear goddess Durga, I offer my respectful obeisances to you as well as to your children." The goddess Durga has 4 famous children, 2 daughters, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, and the goddess of learning, Saraswati, and 2 famous sons, Lord Ganesh and Lord Kachikeya. They are all considered to be demigods and goddesses. Since the goddess Durga is always worshipped along with her famous children, Rukmini specifically offered her respectful obeisances to the deity in that way. However, prayers were different. Ordinary people prayed to the goddess Durga for material wealth, fame, profit, strength, and so on. Rukmini, however, desired to have Krishna for her husband, and therefore prayed to the deity to be pleased upon her and bless her. Since she desired only Krishna, her worship of the demigods is not condemned. While Rukmini was praying, a variety of items were presented before the deity, chief of which were water, different kinds of flames, incense, garments, garlands, and various foodstuffs prepared with ghee, such as puris and kachuris. There were also fruits, sugar cane, betel nuts, and spices offered. With great devotion, Rukmini offered them to the deity according to the regulative principles directed by the old Brahmana's ladies. After this ritualistic ceremony, the ladies offered the remnants of foodstuffs to Rukmini as prasadam, which she accepted with great respect. Then Rukmini offered her obeisances to the ladies and to the goddess Durga. After the business of deity worship were finished, Rukmini caught hold of the hand of one of her girlfriends and left the temple, accompanied by the others. All the princes and visitors who came to Kundina for the marriage were assembled outside the temple to see Rukmini. The princes were especially very eager to see her, because they all actually thought that they would have Rukmini as their wife. So there's not only princes lusting over the princess, they all want to have them. Struck with wonder upon seeing Rukmini, they thought that she was specifically manufactured by the Creator to bewilder all the great chivalrous princes. Her body was well constructed, the middle portion being thin. She had green eyes, pink lips, and a beautiful face, which was enhanced by her scattered hair and by different kinds of earrings. Around her feet she wore jeweled lockets. The bodily luster and beauty of Rukmini appeared as if painted by an artist perfectly presenting beauty, following the description of great poets. The breast of Rukmini is described as being a little bit high, indicating that she was just a youth, not more than 13 or 14 years old. Her beauty was specifically intended to attract the attention of Krishna. Although the princes gazed upon her beautiful features, She was not at all proud. Her eyes moved restlessly, and when she smiled very simply like an innocent girl, her teeth appeared just like lotus flowers. Expecting Krishna to take her away at any moment, she proceeded very slowly towards her home. Her legs moved just like a full-grown swan, and her ankle bells tinkled very mildly. As already explained, the great chivalrous princes who assembled there were so overwhelmed by Rukmini's beauty that they almost became unconscious. Full of lust, they hopelessly desired Rukmini's hand, comparing their own beauty with hers. So this is the nature of lust, of course. As we learn in the Bhagavad Gita, lust is a burning desire to own and control, right? Even in the Webster Dictionary, it's referred to as a really intense desire. We oftentimes in modern day attribute lust to sexual desire, but it is a great burning desire to control and own, which is our perversion in this material world. The pure reflection of lust in the material world and the spiritual world is love, and that is love for Krishna and love for all others. A spiritual love. So, oftentimes I've seen these things that people make jokes about as, that if we follow our lust, we'll be free. But actually, lust is considered in the Bhagavad Gita as the great enemy of the material world. And everything that people fight against, whether it be racism or hatred or environmental degradation or a war, anything and everything, all the problems of the world stem from this lust, a burning desire of people to control things and consume things and try to, take things, I mean mine. And this creates so much suffering and pain in the world. So lust is not actually a great freedom. It's actually a shackling. It's a bondage that is a misconception by living entities about their real nature. By our real nature, we love. We have a loving relationship with Krishna and with all living entities. But as we can see here, all these princes, they're lusting over Rukmini. Rukmini's not really interested in any of them, on a physical level. She has this spiritual, pure relationship that she wants to have with Krishna. Srimati Radharani, however, was not interested in any of them. In her heart, she was simply expecting Krishna to come and carry her away. She was adjusting her ornaments on her left-hand finger. She happened to look upon the princes and suddenly saw that Krishna was present amongst them. Although Rukmini had never before seen Krishna, she was always thinking of him. Thus, she had no difficulty in recognizing him amongst the princely order. Krishna, not being concerned with any other princes, immediately took the opportunity of placing Rukmini on his chariot, marked by a flag bearing the image of Garuda. He then proceeded slowly without fear of taking away Rukmini, exactly as a lion takes the deer from the midst of jackals. Meanwhile, Balaram appeared on the scene with the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty. Jarasandha, who had many times experienced defeat by Krishna, began to roar, "How is this? Krishna is taking Rukmini away from us without any opposition." He must have been quite surprised, thinking that, I thought I killed that guy. What is the use of our being chivalrous fighters with arrows? My dear princes, just look, we are losing our reputation by this action. He is just like the jackal taking away the booty from the lion. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta report of the 52nd chapter of Krishna. Krishna kidnaps Rukmini. And we are going to get into the battle that ensues after this. Is still more exciting things with this story, and stay tuned for more. Thank you very much. Itago Okay, Haribo, thank you for tuning in. And don't forget to like and subscribe below. The more people who comment, the more people who like, the more people who subscribe, the more people see and hear these wonderful pastime stories. And of course, always share your videos, share the videos with your friends on your Facebook and on your Instagram or whatever channels. Thank you very much. Namaste.